Welcome back to the Business of Becoming. I'm your host, Stephanie. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about things that we're leaving behind this year. So, whether you're rebuilding after a divorce or after a heartbreak, or you're raising babies or creating a whole new business or restructuring your business, this episode's for you because I know for sure these three things that I am learning to grow out of is something that I'm not taking into this new season of my life. And I'm more than sure that it will definitely benefit you guys as well. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about is leaving behind emotional clutter. What is that, Steffany? That's guilt, that's shame, that's overthinking. It is so detrimental to you as a person, as a human being that is trying to become somebody great in life. It is super detrimental to you as a leader because if you consistently find yourself in that guilt or that shame or that overthinking, especially in business, you start to make decisions out of fear. You don't make a decision out of a positive place. It's a very timid reaction that you give. Fear has never built anything worth keeping. It silences you, it shrinks you. It is a whole different personality from who you actually are. And overthinking, that just, man, I found myself there 1,000 times. I barely slept most of my 20s because all I was doing was overthinking. I barely slept most of this year because all I was doing was overthinking. And that just delays so many things in your life. It exhausts you. It also, in business too, it delays opportunities in your life because you overthink. I know so many people who have been given opportunities of a lifetime. And because they got stuck in transit of, will this make sense? How would this make sense? What could I do? Can I do this now? Can I do this later? Like all these questions in their life, like there was no need for them because that situation hadn't even come to being yet or be a reality. They missed out on these opportunities. They psyched themselves out from incredible opportunities. And when you're just emotionally baggaged and overloaded, you're not showing up powerful anymore. And that is very, very important for you as a leader. I can tell you this from straight experience. When I was going through a big change and shift in my life and I was emotionally everywhere, I didn't show up to work. I couldn't. And I know that that's not the case for everyone, but I couldn't lead from there at that moment because I knew that I wasn't going to lead them anywhere. I had thankfully placed the supervisors and my management team in a position where they can lead now. And not that I cared to show people that I was weak, because a couple episodes before I showed you the importance of leading from vulnerability. But we all have days where we're shot down, dude. And we need to process that baggage and that emotional baggage because we will stop looking powerful and being powerful and feeling powerful. And then that just resonates with the rest of your team. And they're not looking towards a leader that's going to guide them north. They're looking towards someone who's they have too much going on that they can't even ask for their opinion, or they can't ask for advice, or they can't ask, their boss or their mentor, which is what you are as a leader, for advice or help because they just got too much going on. And you don't want to be that person in anyone's life. You don't want to be that person, especially to those that you're leading. Steffany, how do you leave behind this emotional clutter? I can't give you every answer because I don't know, but I can definitely give you one thing that has helped me in this season of my life, which is name the lie and then name the truth. So, for example, you're not strong enough to deal with this. The truth is, I know I'm strong enough to at least keep going another day. And I'm going to refrain from that. This next one, I almost didn't even want to say it because I felt like this is such an ugly thing that I didn't like about myself, that I caught myself really doing this year specifically. And because I caught myself doing it, I'm going to expose myself and share with you guys that I'm not going to be doing that next year. And I think so many people find themselves in this predicament, or they know someone that is this person. And if you know somebody that's this person, run away from them. And if you are this person, run away from that version of yourself. Okay? And what is that? I am leaving behind my constant need to complain. I was actually really positive growing up and very like headstrong on what I wanted to do and my decisions, and there was just nobody in my way. And then I think it was like 2020, 2021. It was just like bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. Like every single day was a challenge. Every single week there was an issue. And it's okay when you have problems arise, right? But I was going through storms in, in business, in my spiritual life, in my personal life, with my friendships, with my everything. And then if it wasn't me, it was family. They were getting sick. My grandmother had a stroke. So many people were going in and out of like cancer treatments and all this stuff that was just such weighted things in my life that I got to the place where I was like, what the hell? Like, what now? I would get a call either from, my assistant or like my direct number two, and they would just their call and their tone of voice. I was like, what happened now? Like, what's the fire? And that's a level of complaining that people don't understand. It is. It's not trusting that things are going to be okay. It's just like, oh, like this freaking sucks. And I can't tell you how many times I fell into that in the last few years, that it's like a silent killer. It's a silent venom that you don't see coming, but you just slowly but surely just start to lack faith in your abilities and what God could even do for you. And it gets to a point where either years, months, weeks, whatever, later, you realize that you've become just a complainer. And it's not the type of complaining that you're just, the super's too cold, or that it's not that kind of level of complaining. It's like you start losing faith even in new things that you're trying to do, whether it's in your business or as a mom. And that is so detrimental. Complaining just distorts your perception. It creates this like, this kind of narrative of like a victim mentality, and I've seen that so much in people who complain a lot. Like, it's never them, it's the situation, and they never take real ownership, and because you don't want to take real ownership, you're not really going to find a reason to help fix that problem. It hinders you from hearing that positivity into your life. And I caught myself so many times when people would try to be positive around me. I was just like, you just don't get this situation. You don't understand my burden. You don't get the level of stress that I have to now deal with for this. Like, I have to deal with it. I have to solve this. I have to dish out. I have to figure it out. And that's not the truth. That's not how I started this. That's not how I became successful. It wasn't. Some practical tips again. I would just continue saying, speak life over yourself. If situations happen, just say, okay, God, like, what are we going to do? And don't look for the problem in every single thing. Look for a little bit of just something to be grateful for. Even if it was like, man, it could have been worse. Even if it's just that. I highly recommend doing that this year. I'm doing this year. And I know that it's going to position me in a place of gratitude no matter what. And it's going to help me be happier. It's going to help me lead my kids from this place of just faith and just knowing that, things might not be all that great or gravy sometimes, but we're going to enjoy this little messy middle. We're not going to let it knock us down. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is, well, I'll leave you guys with because I'm going to say something after this, but the last thing that I'm leaving behind this year is a scarcity mentality. Or scarcity thinking, I guess we can say, right? Scarcity thinking shows up in very different ways, especially in women's lives. But most importantly, I would say even like as a mom, scarcity thinking is feeling like you're not enough for your kids at this moment. And scarcity thinking is big In leadership and in work, it's when you feel like if you're not the one that's going to do it, it's never going to get done. And that's just so unfair to you as a business owner. And that's such a limitation for you as a leader. For me personally, and I would say this as in a personal woman level, that scarcity thinking was losing that bit of stability that I had, being like a wife and all that other fun stuff. Also, it was more of like, am I ever going to find love again? Like, I limited myself, right? Is God moving too slow for me? Is he moving too fast? Was feeling like my best success, my best years, my best pinnacle moments of my life were behind me. Like, I was on the decline. That was where I found myself. And this is me being extremely real. It ain't being dramatic. It's not being, again, like for her, it's not that. It's realizing that, man, these are things that limited me this year, for sure. It's things that snuck up on me without me even realizing that they were a thing. So you got to pivot from scarcity into, I would use the word like abundance. Because scarcity thinking is, what if I lose it all? And abundance is, I can't lose something that God already gave me. And whatever comes out or whatever leaves me wasn't for me. And here's the truth. Your kids don't need more. Your kids, honestly, they don't even need 1,000 Christmas presents under the tree. They require your presence. And that's one thing that I've worked so hard this year to provide for them. And funny enough, one thing I have seen and noticed is kids do not recognize the times that you were stretched. They really recognize the times that you were present. So I've been in the worst seasons of my life with my kids having front row seats, and they don't remember and they don't even acknowledge that. But they remember the times that I'm presently there with them, playing on the floor, going outside, going to the pool, taking them to the park. Like, they will recount that story the next day or the next morning. They would literally be like, Mom, you remember that we did this and we did that and we did like, and they remember that time more specifically than the brokenness that I was in throughout that entire season. And when you trust God's timing, your children will learn peace. They'll learn not to be anxious, but to learn that mommy trusts in God. And because she trusts in God and she's happy, then we're gonna follow that route, You're not gonna raise your kids to live from scarcity or from limitations. Like, raise them to believe abundantly. Because if you do so, they will do that. And as a leader, your team feels the posture that you lead from, whether it's fear or faith, scarcity or stewardship. So don't lead from a place where you are not even confident in yourself or in God or in anything, because your team is going to feel that. So in closing, I encourage you to write down 3 things that you guys are going to leave behind this year, and 1 promise that you'll make to yourself, to the woman that's becoming, to the man that's becoming, to the leader, the parent who's becoming the best version of themselves every single day. So write down your 3 things that you're going to leave behind and 1 promise to yourself. You guys already know what I'm leaving behind: the emotional clutter, the instinct to complain, and that scarcity thinking. But I'm promising myself that I will learn to live guilt-free of spending more time with my family, and promising myself to receive love without suspicion. And I got a couple promises I'm making myself, but those are on the top. And definitely, just the most important is to choose peace, even though chaos seems very familiar in my life. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed writing down and sharing with you guys the most deep and personal, intrusive thoughts that I have. I know it's going to be a great blessing to you guys, and I know it's going to be super constructive to you, to your team, to your family, and to everything that you're planning to do in this next year. So I'll see you guys next year. on this orange chair. And have a happy new year.